Hallelujah! Testimony.
I struggled with fatigue so bad that one day, I don't know if Renee remember, and I was taking her to school. I said, hold the wheel, and I went to sleep at the wheel. But I stopped when it was time to stop. I'm like, girl, did you know I went to sleep? She didn't even know. That was God.
Talk about it, girl.
Just over the years, the fatigue got worse and worse, and I started having problems with my head, with my neck. I ended up going back and forth to the doctor. I'm experiencing all this burning pain, just different things going on. They said I had neuropathy. They couldn't say what it came from, why. They sent me back home.
Neuropathy, what's that?
Neuropathy is nerve pain.
Okay.
So I had it in my head, my neck, my arms, pretty much throughout my body. I will say from August 3rd, I went to my great niece's birthday party, and I didn't want to go, and I kept saying, I cannot get bit by a mosquito. I don't know what it was, but I knew if I got bit, that was it. And that just set everything off. And I just went downhill from there. It got worse and worse from August to October. Going back and forth to the hospital, I went to Henry Ford ER, because I had went literally a whole day without using the bathroom. And I called my doctor. They said, go into ER. I went to ER, and they checked me. My reflexes were like super, super hyper. Do a tap on the knee, sent my leg up to the doctor's head. I exhibit all the signs of spinal cord damage. They checked me for a stroke. I had been told many times I had a stroke, but in my spirit I knew I did not have a stroke. They sent me home that day with a Foley bag. That's the bag, if you don't know what it is, that catches, your urine. They sent me home with a Foley bag strapped to my leg with all these symptoms. I came to church the next day. And that morning I got up because I was getting ready for church. I couldn't put my clothes up. I was literally weak. I couldn't hold cups. I was dropping things. I was dropping cups here in church. Went home that Monday, texted my doctor, and I'm telling her what's going on, and get up, go to the restroom. I made it back to my room, but I never made it to the bed. I hit the floor. I was on the floor for about 45 minutes because I was home by myself. And I sat there and I'm like, I got to figure out how to get up. And I decided, let me relax, let me calm down and take a deep breath, because I can, tell I was breathing harder and harder. So I sat there and I got in my mind, okay, I got a clothes basket here, I got the bed here, I can get up. I couldn't get up. Then I determined, I got the dresser, the door over there. I can hold to the handle of the door and pull myself up. Well, at that moment, I realized not only was I weak, my arm had shrunk. So I lost a lot of muscle that I didn't know that I was losing. So when Deja came home, get up, I was continuing to text my doctor, text Pastor Cross, went to the doctor. My doctor literally cried in front of me and Deja because of my condition, sent me to ER. And Deacon Gordon and Deacon Demi came, they prayed for me. And that was my journey, beginning of my journey of a 38-day stay between hospital and rehab. I went through so many tests, and they came back, and it was like, Miss Bradley, we want to let you know you don't have HIV. I said, well, really? Well, we want to let you know this. They couldn't determine, what was going on. Just multiple tests after tests. They sent me to rehab, to the spinal cord injury unit. And before that, they were treating me for MS because they said the symptoms mimic MS as well. And my hand had drew up like this. My fingers drew up. I lost use of both my hands. I couldn't walk. So I got like 1,000 units of steroids a day for 5 days. Well, that 6th day when they dropped it, my hand instantly dropped back up. So then we knew that the steroid wasn't working. So then I went to rehab. So I also had spasms in a form called clonus, where you just shake. So my legs would shake and buckle. So at any given time, they would give out on me and I would fall. But I would study, do what I needed to do in rehab because I was determined I'm going home. So in rehab, I had a setback mentally because they said, we have to send you out of rehab, to send you back to the hospital. I get to the hospital, and I'm going through these tests, and the doctor comes in and says, well, we want to give you chemo, and we want to do what's called plasmapheresis, where they filter your blood out and remove all the antibodies and put them back in your body. So I said, what happened if I refuse? She said, well, if you refuse, you'll end up in that condition permanently or dead. So I took a chance. I said, okay. I agreed to the treatment, started the treatment. I would say about 3-4 days, maybe 5 days into my treatment, I get my diagnosis from the Mayo Clinic, and it was another autoimmune disorder known as neuromyelitis optica.
Another.
So keep in mind, the other two affects the whole system. They're systemic. So all your organs, everything is affected. With neuromyelitis optica, it affects the nervous system, the brain, the spinal cord. So I had inflammation throughout spots, different areas of my spinal cord, which is what shut down the body. Once the spinal cord is affected, whatever areas that's affected, from that point down, it shuts down function. It also can cause you to go blind. I was told that I wouldn't recover fully. I wouldn't walk.
Mm-hmm. Look at God. Look at God. Come on now.
Miracle, 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 miracle.
Hallelujah.
Exactly, but God. I even experienced what's called neurogenic bladder, neurogenic bowel. And I thank God for the gift of knowing how to listen to my body and know what's wrong, even when no one else listened, even when no one else heard me, even when they didn't understand, I knew. And I remember, even in the hospital, I went to use the restroom, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, something's going on. I called the nurse. I said, something's going on. You got to get in here. They came in there. I had passed out. Just from trying to use the bathroom, just because of the nerves, function like they were. But I went through rehab. I'm still doing physical therapy now. I'm trying to shorten this up. Let me see. Once I got out of the hospital, I was supposed to follow it up with some tests in my lungs. And I'm kind of pushing forward to today. And I didn't follow up. It said I had a pulmonary nodule on my lungs. And so I didn't follow up. But then here recently, I kept having problem after problem. I realized my breathing was getting worse. Just sitting down, I was having a hard time breathing. So I said, okay, let me tell my doctor. Then I followed up with the respiratory specialist. I called Deacon Weber. I called her after I left therapy a couple weeks ago. I had swelling, and I told my therapist, and she said, well, let me check it. She said, you have a mass the size of a golf ball. So I called Deacon Weber, because I was like, you know what? Every time I feel like I'm coming out the water, I get snatched back under. Every time I'm in this hallway, there's like no ending either way. But then God gives me just a little bit of air, and I can breathe. He dims a little bit of light. And it was so funny because when I was telling her, talking to her, everything that I would think, she would speak out loud. So I said, okay, God, I hear you. So then I came to church that following Sunday. The deacons prayed for me. And what they didn't know is that I was sitting during service, I was having a hard time breathing. But I know how to just take my time and inhale and exhale so I can calm it down. Well, Deacon Demi, during the prayer, she laid her hands on my lungs from the front and the back. And she began to tell me to breathe. And she just kept saying, breathe, Renetta, breathe. Breathe on the power of the Holy Spirit. And I can hear the stuttering in my breathing. And eventually it went away and it cleared up and I was breathing. Now, during this time I went and had tests done. And I hadn't got my results back. But that was, 2 Sundays ago? Before I got my results, I was looking for something for Denaria. And decided, let me go through this envelope. It's my discharge papers from the hospital. So it says on there something that I never saw. I don't know how I missed it, but I didn't see it. It had on there that I had limited bivascular scarring on my lungs. So I looked that up. Talked about the lungs collapsing and the different things that goes on with the lungs. Now, when you have scars don't go away. Well, I go to the doctor, I get my results back. And he says, well, the x-ray, the CAT scan, everything came back good.
Won't he do it?
Even though before when he first tested me, the pulmonary functioning test showed that my lungs were functioning, that they were too small. So I said, well, what about this paper here? And I gave him my diagnosis. He was like, well, don't worry about that. He wouldn't even read it. So I kept pressing the issue because I want him to answer, what about this? Because like the nurse said, scarring don't go away. So then, but God, amen. So then he left out the room. He came back and he says, let me tell you like this in the words of the Italian. You are magnificent. It's not that I'm magnificent, it's that I serve a magnificent God. A God who shows himself continually mighty on my behalf. A God who has never ceased to amaze me. A God who shows up and shows out time after time after time after time after time. And my mother can tell you, I'm the child that kept her on her face. Not on her knees, but on her face. I was the quote unquote the black sheep. But I'm still the child that keep her on her face, but in a different way. Praising God for the mighty, wonderful works that he's done. And he's continuing to do in my life.
Hallelujah.
Whoa, when I think about the goodness of Jesus. And all he's done for me right there, friend, my soul cries, hallelujah. Hallelujah, Jesus. Hallelujah, Lord. Thank you for saving, for healing and setting me free. And for you who don't believe there's a God and you're questioning God, you better wake up tomorrow. I'm proof that God is real. I'm proof that God is real. I've been through hell and hot water, but I'm still standing. I'm still standing. Not once have you seen me give up on God. And I'm challenging you today. Step out on faith. Step out on faith. Step out on faith. You better know the God that you serve. You better know that he's faithful and he's able. You better know it. Tell y'all something else. Somebody's here right now struggling with some mental issue. Somebody right here dealing with Alzheimer's, other kind of mental issues, depression. I thank God for this. They say, are you depressed? No, I'm not depressed. I thank God that through it all I've had peace. My mother thought I was fooling her every time we were talking on the phone from Alabama. She thought I was fooling her. I was good. I was good. I've never experienced so much peace. And when I was discharged, the doctors filled out paperwork for me to not go to school, to have all my student loans waived. I know many of y'all would have said, oh, I'm going to take that. I'm not going back to school. They said I wouldn't be able to do it. There were times that I would speak and I couldn't understand my own self. That my words would be cluttered. But here I am, 3 weeks away from finishing my master's degree.
There you go.
Has it been easy? No, it's been a challenge. It's been a challenge. And I always look at it like this. In the world, I didn't give up. I was a fighter.
That's right.
So why would I give up now when I got God on my side? I'm going to end here. But I'm going to say this as well. When you don't know what to pray and how to pray, God will give you a song. And God has given me many songs that have taken me through this journey. Some that were written and some that he put in my spirit. You know. So just know that God is faithful. He can and he will do anything but fail, but you have to keep the faith. For all who have prayed, who came to see about my children, who brought them food, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. God bless you all, and I love you.
Stand to your feet, stand to your feet, stand to your feet. Turn your neighbor and say, God's working on your testimony. As you get ready to go, 2 or 3 things. One, today is Porch Light. We go out to the community.